Woo! That's bitter. Do you ever drink regular coffee?
I don't drink any coffee.
You've never drank coffee? Yeah,
Nothing.
you've tried. Stop it.
No, I have tried coffee, but I don't drink any now, like at all. I haven't had caffeine in probably like over 20 years.
How come you stopped?
Caffeine.
You know what? I admire how hardcore you are. You know, you don't do drugs, you don't drink, you don't do weed.
I don't do weed.
You don't do
guys.
caffeine, you don't do nothing.
I don't do caffeine because at one point in my life I did it a lot, and it was like it really gave me a lot of anxiety.
Really?
So yeah.
Man, I just don't understand that when people say that caffeine gives them anxiety. Like I feel like I have raging anxiety 24 hours a day. So like I can't imagine like, I don't know. I feel like I have so much anxiety that I don't know what it's like to not have anxiety. So I can't imagine drinking something and then getting, you know what I mean? It's just, it's interesting that
it added
happens
onto it because it's a stimulant. So like it makes your everything like just increase.
Oh yeah. And some people tell me in the shop, they're like, oh, I get jittery when I drink caffeine. And
especially like if you don't eat anything is the worst.
That's crazy.
And I grew up, since I'm Cuban, I grew up around coffee so much. So like I did it a lot.
Yeah.
Like my dad would like drink coffee to go to sleep and
that's how
would
I
be
am.
fine.
Patrick's that way too.
Yeah. Oh my God. He drinks coffee all the time.
Yeah.
But he's just so like, he drinks it all the time that it doesn't do anything for him. So maybe for you, that's why.
Yeah, it's probably the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like for me, I stopped it. I was cold turkey. Like that was it. And then I did decaf.
What made you? Was it just the anxiety or did you like have a bad day?
It was the anxiety mostly, but I just went to the doctor.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, because I was feeling like skipped heartbeats a little bit. And she was like, okay, well, that's okay. Like you're just having anxiety. But if there's something that's adding onto it, just quit. And I'm like, okay, coffee's adding onto it.
You ain't have to tell her that. You ain't have to tell her that.
Well, she asked me how much coffee I drank. And I was like, I drink a lot, actually. Like all the time because it suppresses your hunger.
Yeah.
So you drink coffee, you're working all the time, and I work all the time.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is super convenient where I don't have to eat. Like, and I can just drink coffee.
It's a life hack.
So it's perfect. And so I started doing it a lot. And then you're working, you have anxiety, you get nervous, it increases it all, and then you don't sleep. So I was like, I'm just done with it. And I just stopped.
So what was your go-to way to drink coffee? Like what was your order? Did you have an order? Did you make it at home?
It was always like the lattes.
Really? Just a latte?
Like the vanilla latte. It was just like not even that strong.
Yeah, you would be vanilla latte.
It wasn't like an espresso or nothing like that. It was like an Americano sometimes with like syrup, like the vanilla syrup.
No way.
Yeah,
I
stuff
can't
like
even
that.
picture you drinking coffee now that I know you.
Starbucks was my favorite, obviously.
No.
Obviously. I know.
That's because Omen didn't
But like we didn't have
exist.
cool coffee shops like this.
Yeah.
Like
Where were you living at this time?
I was here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it, in St. Louis.
I was here in St. Louis, yeah.
Yeah.
I have been in St. Louis for 27 years now.
Really? Yeah, but okay, so so you're from Cuba though, originally.
Yeah.
That is insane.
Cuban girl.
Have you noticed there are, so like on the internet, I go down wormholes sometimes. I shouldn't do this, but it's bad for my anxiety.
Yeah, all of us.
But I look and there's like conspiracy theorists or people that most people would call conspiracy theorists that say that like we're in the midst of like sort of like a communist revolution here in the United States, right? And what's crazy is I was driving. I don't know if you've driven on Locust lately, but on Locust, which is the street over for you guys listening on, one street over down there, there's a bunch of papered up posters that says, "Are you a communist?" And it has a figure like pointing. It says, "Are you a communist?" And they said, "Then get organized." And there's a QR code that they can scan.
Yeah.
And apparently they're trying to like recruit people to this communist organization in America, in the United States of America. In fact, not only in the United States of America, on Locust Street, like fucking 200 yards from here.
I haven't seen that.
I swear. I'll show you it afterwards. In fact, do you know how to put a picture on the screen? I'm going to take a picture of it. I don't know. Sorry, I'm new to this YouTube thing.
But what's the purpose? Do you know?
Well,
just to be a communist in St. Louis?
This is what I mean. Like communism, the United States of America has always been enemies of communism. Like,
Correct.
you know,
Yeah.
and
That's
so
why I'm here.
it's kind of crazy that in America, like, okay, again, that most people would call conspiracy theorists are saying that there's a communist revolution in America. And then I saw that on the street and I'm like, nah, man, these conspiracy theorists might be on to something, because there's literally somebody trying to recruit communists here in St. Louis, which is crazy. But I want to hear about, you know, your experience growing up in Cuba. Like,
it's pretty horrible.
Cuba's obviously a communist country, right?
It's a communist country, 100%.
All right, yeah. So tell me about it.
Third world communist country. I was there till I was 9 years old.
Is it considered like a third world country?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least when I was there. I haven't been back since like about 12 years ago. I was back in Holguín. This is where my mom is from. I was born in Línea Street on Havana. We left when I was 9, but it is
Havana is the capital, right?
Havana is the capital of Cuba, yeah. It's like the city area capital. I lived in like a little, my God, I never remember the name of like the building, but essentially like there's like little apartments and then you have the middle. What would you call that?
Courtyard?
Yes, the courtyard. I lived in a courtyard. And so
wait, you lived in the courtyard?
I lived there. That was like me growing up there. When I was 1, I was sent to Holguín in the countryside because I was really bad. Lots of mold, bad conditions. And so my mom's like, I used to have bronchitis and like couldn't breathe at night a lot of the time. So my mom's like, you got to go to the country and just be like, just let her be out in like the open and get like all the germs. You know how fresh air. Yeah, you know, like parents say like get the fresh air, get the germs in you, and then like you'll be So I went there and then I lived there till I was like 5 years old, and then went back to Havana with my parents.
Who were you living with in the?
My grandma and my cousins, like my cousins and my aunts and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a roof. Like,
no way.
In my grandma's house. Yeah, like my grandma's house, it was like part of the roof was up. We did have let me say this right. We did have a roof, but most of it was gone. So like if it would rain, there would be parts of the little houses that we would have to go into and stay in until it would stop. Wow. Right. And I remember all of this.
That's insane.
There was like days where like, I don't want to say days, but I would say like times in the day, or like I probably went like 2 days without having much to eat at all.
Really?
And like, I remember my dad, like every time when I went back to Havana, I would cry like all the time about like food, because I was so hungry and like we had nothing at home. Wow. And so the only way to get food was like if somebody like gave you like, if you had dollars, somebody from like here sent you dollars over there. Yeah. And then you could like go to the store named like Shopping. It's literally called Shopping.
The store?
The store is called Shopping. Wow. And you would go in and it would be products from here that would go there, like foods and stuff that
from
you can
America?
Buy with dollar. Yeah. It was just like.
Is there no Cuban money?
Well, it was, you can buy it with $1. You take the dollar, you convert it into pesos, and then you would buy it with that. Yeah.
So what did your grandma do for work out in the country?
I don't think she did anything. My aunts were nurses.
Yeah.
In Holguín. Yeah. And they were making like $30 a month.
$30 a month.
So it's funny for me to hear people here essentially say like
that think communist is a good
idea.
That
like socialism and all of these things are good and let's all be equal, because they have no idea what it's like for everything to be equal. Yeah. You know, to live in that.
That's something that I do. Yeah. I want you to like expand on, because it sounds good, right? Like everything being equal, but I think
it doesn't work.
Yeah. Why doesn't it work?
It doesn't work because everybody's miserable and everybody's hungry and everything is equal. So like, for example, my family, me, my mom, and my dad had this little notebook that was given to us by the government. Essentially, every single family would have it. And so with this little notebook, depending on how many people you would have in your family, you would then have a piece of chicken, pieces of breads, and rice that you would go to this little store and you would wait in line to get that every day. And that's all that you would have to eat for the day.
Is that one meal?
That's one meal. And then they would check it off. That's one meal, right? They would check it off and say, okay, that family got that, the little notebook, that family got that for the day. Now you got to come back tomorrow to get the rest. My dad was a magician in Cuba. He had like a
legit magician.
Yeah, like he had a little business.
Okay.
As like a magician with a ballerina and a clown.
Yeah.
And this is how he would get extra money to pay and buy more things from the shopping store. Yeah. I'm 37 years old now, so I'm pretty sure things were a little different. Yeah. But back then when I was young, when I was like between 1 and 9, this is what you had to do, right? So now from what I'm hearing from my aunt that I talk to all the time in Cuba, like you still have to wait. Like the rows in the grocery stores are like, there's like cereal, and then that whole aisle is just like that one cereal of that one box
No
of
way.
brand. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And there isn't much about it because they want to tell you the great and amazing things about Cuba and the cars and the beaches and the people and people dancing. But people are not fucking happy there.
So your dad, was he allowed to, like, is that legal for him to have that side business and make his own money?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was, as far as I know back then, you could do it. And that's why we had a little bit more, but not.
That's so interesting. So so basically what I'm hearing is like, okay, yeah, everything was equal, but since the government controlled everything, there wasn't enough of a supply. So everybody's basically living on the bare minimum rather than everybody living this luxurious lifestyle.
Yeah, nobody really lives a luxurious lifestyle.
So who was the upper class? Like, did you know anybody that ever had money? Like, or like, was there any families that like?
I'm sure that there were families that had a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like they had their little side businesses doing whatever and earning more pesos essentially. But like my dad, right? Yeah. But there's only like a limit. Like you can't be like a millionaire. Or you can't make like
that's
all
what
this
I'm
money,
wondering. Is like if your dad had a business, what if his business just blew up?
They can take it if they want to.
They would just take it?
They could take his money. They would ask for it. He would probably go to jail. Like it would be whatever. I mean, my dad had to do a lot of things that were like on the side that like nobody really knew about, right? Yeah. In order to maintain the family and make sure that like he put food in my mouth,
in
which
order
is
to
really
take
hard.
Care of you guys.
Yeah, which is really hard. Sorry, my nose is itching. Hopefully I get money.
Yeah.
You know when your nose itches, you get money?
I heard that when
your like hand. Your hand. Yeah. But what was I saying?
That
So you just basically just try your best and you kind of hide away and try to survive. Like the lights would come off at like 6 o'clock at night. Like they turn off the lights on your ass.
The government just turns the lights off.
Just turns the lights off. We would have candles. We wouldn't be able to like see anything. It would be dark in the streets. Like I would be playing outside with my friends, like in the streets, like, and we would have no lights, we'd see nothing. Yeah, it was just normal.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was normal. Like it was just.
It feels like it's
so funny talking about this. Like
it reminds me of prison. That's what it reminds me of.
It was like prison, but it was normal.
Like I always tell people, the crazy thing about prison is like sometimes when you're there for long enough, you can actually like forget that you're in prison. Because I often wonder, like the people who design that environment, like they have to understand human nature so well, because some of the things that they did, like they give you, like in prison, you can have your own personal property, but you can only have as much property as they say you can have. Like
so they control that?
Yeah. Like I could have my own books and my own clothes and my own stuff, but like there's a limit, and they can tell me you can only have 20 pairs of socks. But like if I have like my family bring me like a pair of Nike socks or something, like I feel like, oh, these are, it almost like gives you an illusion that you are free, because you can have your own stuff, but really you can only have as much as they say you can have. And like I have my own space, like I had like a cell, right? But like,
were you by yourself?
Yeah.
In there? Okay.
But you only have as much space as they say you can have, and you can have a job, but you get to pick from a list of jobs that they give you, and you like can go to school, and there's all these parameters, and you can work out, you can go to the gym, or you can go to the yard, but like you can only go when they say you can go. And so you forget about the second half of that. You wake up and you go to work and you come home and you eat lunch, and then you go to the gym and you work out and you come home, you watch Netflix, and it like feels like for real, you forget that you're in prison until like one day you start to like think like when I would remember.
It's crazy. Sorry to interrupt you, but I think I've never heard that. Like
it's
that you forget that you're in prison, so it becomes like your
adaptive, the norm.
Everyday normal, you know?
Yeah, and when what you're saying right now, you were like, it's normal, like
I knew nothing else.
And right? I often would wonder. I would literally consciously think about this. I would be like, man, if I was a baby and I was born in here, this would just be the whole world to me.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
And when you said that at 6 o'clock or whatever, they turn the lights off, like that's prison. At prison, they turn the lights off at a certain time. They turn them on at another time. And like the only time I would remember that I was in prison was when I would wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes I would want to like go outside and drink my cup of coffee, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I can't go outside till 9 o'clock because that's when I'm allowed to go outside.
That's when you're allowed.
It's crazy. Yeah. And that's basically what you lived in. So anyway, I want to ask you, so what about like what about the highlights? Like, you know, because obviously it wasn't all bad. You probably, did you guys like as kids have sports that you could play, or, because like Cuba, I mean, I know Cuba, soccer is popular in Cuba.
Yeah, but I never played sports in Cuba. In school.
Yeah. How was school?
You know what's so funny?
I want to hear about school.
I'm going to tell you something that like not a lot of people maybe believe, but I just suppressed a lot of memories when I was in like even like middle school. Like I remember high school, but like middle school and before that, like I don't remember a lot of that. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Yeah, like I don't remember a lot of those memories because I guess maybe because it was hardship and like as a kid, you kind of just like don't want to like
you block it out.
You block it out.
Yeah.
So it's like I have it in like scattered kind of a feel. I remember like walking to school with my dad. I don't remember specifically like friends in school or like having like activities in school or nothing like that.
Yeah.
I know that I didn't really do sports until I came to America.
Got it.
But when I did do anything that was active was like outside on the streets.
Yeah.
Like I would just be outside on the streets with like random dogs because I love dogs so much.
Really?
Yes, dogs are like my everything. But like I would be on the streets with like just playing with random dogs and like my friends.
Yeah.
I would always just be out on the streets.
Yeah.
And it was normal for parents to let their kids out and do whatever because there's really not a lot of crime there.
Really?
So there wasn't when I was young.
The government's
I mean,
harsh.
they'll lock your ass up.
Yeah.
They'll do whatever they want to you. So it's like,
Man.
yeah. So it was safe. As far as I remember, like everything we did was safe.
Yeah.
And I would just be out and about with friends. And then I would just come home before the lights turned off. And then sometimes when the lights were off, I would beg my parents to let me out because I would see the kids outside playing and then I would go out and then I would come back. But that wasn't very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. So as you, so like, okay, now you're 37 years old, you said, and like, you know, America is what it is. Do you see like any, like, okay, the conspiracy theorists on the internet saying that there's a communist revolution here. Do you see any like of what you saw in Cuba happening here in America that you didn't see here when you first came here?
Yeah.
I'm really curious because
I see a lot of change.
I have a friend G who's from Nicaragua.
Mm-hmm.
How do you guys say it? Nicaragua.
Nicaragua.
Yeah.
Nicaragua.
Nicaragua. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have a friend
You're good. You
G
said it
who's
good.
from Nicaragua, and he in one day in the men's group,
Yeah.
we were just talking about social issues and culture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was his first one, and it was the first time he ever stood up and spoke in front of us. But he was just like, "Listen, I'm from Nicaragua, and I watched." You know, and he like kind of detailed the transition that happened in Nicaragua and the government and when they took away guns and all this stuff. And he's like, I watched my dad walk to the police station and have to forfeit over his guns. And he said, and the same stuff that I saw there, I'm seeing happening here. And it makes me, you know, it just makes me worry because I left that.
Yeah.
I came to the United States to get away from, you know, that kind of, utility, you know, that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? But that kind of government, that kind of rule.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if you see any similarities like he did, but he watched a transition in his country happen where you were just born into something that was different. Yeah. And
I was also really young. 100%. I have not been into like I've never really been like super into politics before until Trump came into office and then Biden came into office. And I could see like the big differences, right? For me, at least,
like what?
Being Cuban and coming from a communist country, right? And basically more so because of the things that my dad has told me.
Yeah.
And the life that he lived before it was a communist country.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, I came here when I was 9. I was fairly young. So I experienced like the hardship of what a communist country will give you.
But not as an adult.
Right? So from what I'm listening to on like just everything I watch, it seems like there's some parts of this government that do want to get there eventually.
Yeah.
I think it'll take a lot of years to get there. I think there's a lot of people that are fighting against that. But there are some things that I think if we don't like steer in a certain way, that could happen.
So
like, go ahead. No, you tell me.
Go ahead.
No, you have a question?
Yeah, because you just said like that. you never really paid attention to politics much until Trump got into office and then Biden got into office. And it's interesting. I think that a lot of people have, especially a lot of like people who were born and raised in America, they have like an idea of what like the Democrats are for and who generally votes for them and what the Republicans are for and who generally votes for them. I think people also have like an idea about Donald Trump and Joe Biden, at least because the media has like told them this narrative anyway. That's my opinion. So a lot of people, I think the media tries to say that like Donald Trump is like a racist and he's not for minorities. And they say the opposite about, Joe Biden. They say that, he's pro-immigration and migration and all this stuff. And so as an immigrant, though, really, how do you see those two different people? And like, do you prefer a world where we have leaders like, Donald Trump or a world where we have leaders like Joe Biden?
Oh my God.
What?
I want to talk about this. No, I want to talk about this.
I mean, I think it's important that people hear the perspective of immigrants.
No.
Because there's this migrant crisis going down at the border.
Yeah.
And like some people might think that like for them to say, man, I don't know if that's a good idea to just let all these undocumented people come into the country. They might think that a person like you would say that they're racist or they're anti-immigration or jump down their throat because you're an immigrant. So I'd like to hear your opinion on it.
I'm going to tell you a little story about my dad and how we got here first, and then I'll answer your question.
I love it. Yeah.
My dad is a political refugee. He wanted to escape communism for the longest time.
Does he live here now?
My dad passed away 4 years ago.
Okay,
he was my everything, but he passed away 4 years ago. He tried to leave the country for about 10 years, and they did not allow him to leave. When he was young, he basically gathered a bunch of men that were against communism and burnt down a bunch
kind of like me.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. You would have been his friend back then for sure. You guys would have really vibed back then. He gathered a bunch of men basically and wanted to kill Fidel Castro. Like that's how much he was against it. Like he like made plans. He wanted all of this to be done. Like he showed me all these things. And like I even met like a couple of his friends that came here at the same time, around the same time we did, because he was so against it, because he saw what it was like before. It was a free country. You could do whatever you want. And the people were happy. The people weren't hungry. And so it turned into this around like his 20s and 30s. So he got caught doing all of this. Somebody from that group snitched basically, and he went to jail for 9 years. And so after 9 years, he requested to leave the country. And he said, I no longer want to be a citizen here. I no longer want to be with this government. So I want to file to leave. And so they didn't approve it so many times. He met my mother at he was like 42 years old, had me. And then when I turned 7, they approved it. So then we came here, and we came here for the American dream. We came here because we knew that there was so much opportunity here, that we could be whatever we wanted to be. And he wanted to give that to me, right? So we came here vetted though.
What's that mean?
Means that they looked at our background. We came through the International Institute of St. Louis. Are you familiar with them?
Mm-mm.
So they take in immigrants, right, that come from other countries seeking asylum, essentially, that don't have anything. So that's how we came here through them. So they provide clothing for you. They give you an apartment that you can live in until you get on your feet. They find a job. They teach you English, all of the above, right? So we came here with nothing. We had like a little bag of like our underwear. Things like, nothing pretty much. They put us in this, we actually landed in Miami. And I'm so mad because I wanted to for them to tell us you didn't get to choose where you go. They tell you where you live.
So you wanted to stay.
I wanted to stay in Miami. So
now you're a St. Louis girl.
I know, I'm a St. Louis girly. No, but we landed in Miami International Airport, and then this lady with the clipboard. It was 3 of us, 3 families, me, my mom, my dad, and then 2 other families. And they were like, "You're gonna go to staying in Miami. You're going to St. Louis, and you're going to wherever else, you know." And we ended up in St. Louis. I had no idea what was going on. I was just like, okay, great, whatever. And then we came here. We didn't really have an option.
America.
When I say vetted, I meant that there must have been, and I never looked into this, but there must have been some kind of relationship between this International Institute of Social Workers and Cuba's embassy of some whatever.
Got it.
And so they knew who we were. They knew how we were going to get here. We came here in 4 different airplanes. They knew our backgrounds. They knew that we weren't criminals, essentially. So we were vetted. Like, they knew who was coming into the country.
Yeah.
So do I believe that we should be letting these people in?
Yeah.
I'm going to say no without being vetted.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't let a stranger in your home, not knowing at all who they are.
100%.
Right? So why is it that we're letting all these people come in our country and we have no idea who they are, and they're committing crimes
we have no idea.
against us and our children that are growing to be something in the future. And we're allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of these people that say this would never allow a stranger in their home.
Yeah, they would.
Right? Like, there's like, have you seen the YouTube videos of like this guy going up to like, somebody was cutting their lawn and he was like, hey man, I've got 3 Mexicans here ready to like, you know, take asylum in your house. You ready to get them in? And he was like, oh no.
Yeah.
You know,
But
and he was the one that was saying,
this,
but you're for this and you're voting for this and you
Yeah.
want this, right? But you're not seeing what it's actually doing to our country.
Yeah.
So as an immigrant, I don't agree with that. And
Yeah.
I don't think that we should just let anybody in.
Yeah.
There's many stories of them coming through, whoever it may be, coming through and killing people at the border, or like people that live closer to the border. Like,
Committing crimes. Yeah.
Committing crimes. So
Yeah.
to answer your question,
Yeah.
that's not the way I'm going.
It's just irresponsible at best. Like, if you're like, even if I'm just being nice, it's irresponsible to just let people in without knowing who they are. Like you said, that's a perfect analogy. Would you let a stranger into your home? Like, no, of course I wouldn't. Like, I want to know who you are, and it's, you know, I want to know at least that somebody checked your background. Like, I might let a stranger into my home, but like, I would accept a foreign exchange student. You're a stranger, but somebody did a background check. They know that you're actually a student. They know that you're not a criminal, and you passed a mental health, check.
Exactly.
Man. Okay. So what about
some kind of like give them a survey, something.
Yeah. Something.
Like, at least like,
Yeah. And it's interesting to me. Like, we answered a question on one of the Let's Talk About It segments of this podcast about like culture and what is the American culture and how much should immigrants influence the culture. And I actually, responded something to the effect that like American culture is really just about our core values. It's like 10%. And then the other 90% is like, yeah, America's the melting pot of the world. It's amazing that we have all these,
and I think it's amazing,
these different cultures. But I do think that it's really important that, like, for example, that everybody speaks English. Like, I mean, it's just hard to operate in a society where like you can't communicate with people.
Right. My parents never tried to speak English.
Yeah.
Never really studied. They just depended on me because it's a culture thing for your kids to take care of you. And
in Cuba.
Yeah. So they never spoke English, and we had a lot of hard times because I had a lot of hard times as a kid, being 9 years old, going to hospitals, translating big words that I have no idea what they were.
Yeah.
So yes, do I believe that if you're coming to this country, you should learn English? I do.
Well, not only that, that was maybe even a bad example, because I don't think that's at the top of the list of things that are important. That's a bad example. But I think like our culture is and our core values, like safety, right? Like, everybody should feel safe. Like we don't. Like, some Middle Eastern countries, for example, treat women differently than we treat women here in the States, right? Like, you need to understand that like the rules are different here, no matter where you come from, whether it's Cuba or the Middle East, and like nobody's taking the time to even explain that. Like, I know some people who are immigrants who had to pass like tests. They had to like know U.S. history. They had to know our Constitution.
That's me.
And their rights, for real.
I had to go through that.
You just have to know the basics, which is like, these are your rights. And then in case you come from anywhere else, like, these are the things, these are the rules here. Yeah. This is what we live. And that's like bare minimum in my head. And I think it's irresponsible to let people in without doing that, because then they could commit crimes, or they could, whatever.
They're a ghost. You have no idea who they are. They can do whatever they want, and they're a ghost, and you cannot find them in the system. It's honestly crazy to me that there's people that are for that.
Yeah. Like, it really is
crazy.
And it's these people, but it's crazy to me. The craziest thing about it is it's like, I feel like it's very surprising the people who it is. Like, it's either, in my experience, it's like, it's like people who live in the inner city that you know, a lot of times they're not like upper class people. They're just like these middle to lower class people who live in the inner city who you're for this, not knowing that when these people get shipped somewhere, they're going to get shipped to the city.
Yeah.
And they're going to like the perfect example is I saw in New York City that they closed down a public school to let migrants live in the school. And they told the kids, hey, you're going to go do remote learning. So the people who are paying taxes in that school district are paying now for their kids to go get sent home and get taught remote. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And there's like literally tens of thousands of US citizens in New York City that are homeless. And we never like sent kids home from school to give those people shelter, but we're doing that for strangers. Like, and it's crazy because it's the inner city people that are saying, yeah, you know, let the migrants in. And, you know, anybody who says that we should close the border is racist. And then when they come, they're going to be, you know, you're going to pay the price for those migrants because they're going to come in and they're going to send them to the city. They're not sending them out to the rural areas. Like, it's really crazy. It's insane.
Why do you think that those are the people that are saying that? Like, why do you think they are so about it and they're the ones that are being affected by it? I don't understand the thought process in that or the common sense, you know?
I think I've wondered about this for a long time because all big cities in America are progressive. They're generally more progressive in the way that they vote. Okay. And so a lot of times you look and like, you know, a lot of the rural areas will be like a toss up kind of. And like, for example, I'm from New York State. New York State is like it's got to be one of the top 10 or 15 biggest states in the country. It's big. It's very big from a land mass standpoint. And then New York City makes up like 5% of the land mass, but it makes up like 90% of the population. Right. And so the whole rest of the state, the other 95% of the state is conservative. But that little 5 or 10%, which is New York City, is liberal. And so because of that, I don't know. But anyway, I've wondered for a long time, why are all the big cities traditionally progressive? And is it the fact that there's like such a wide diversity of people there?
Do you think it's like almost like a trend where like one person that's alike says that and the other person, you know, because like, have you really sat down and thought through the process of what you're saying?
I don't think that they do.
Or the consequences of what you're saying.
I don't think that they do.
Have you digested?
I wonder because in my full transparency, my actual opinion is that people that are like that, they've been, for lack of a better explanation, like brainwashed. They've been brainwashed. Like there's people, like for example, I just made a post yesterday and people are really upset about it. But I was talking about how there's a coffee shop that's a few blocks down from Omen that are hosting like a drag show for kids. It's a kid-focused, Easter-themed drag show. So like, and I said, you know, something to the effect of like if you want to do drag, like I have no opinion on that. That's completely fine. It just seems really weird that you want to bring toddlers into it. Like it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like this is like
that's a whole other.
But to me, that's another one of these things. Like it's highly irrational. Like I cannot even understand how any adult would think that that's appropriate.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I can't justify it in any other way other than saying that these people have been brainwashed by modern day progressive propaganda. And then we have this media that it almost like makes you think that everybody thinks this way. You know, it's like everywhere you look, especially like during Pride Month, you know, you see like someone, it's like,
it like takes over
all the major corporations, you know, everywhere you look, it's pride. And it gives you this illusion that everybody thinks this is the thing. And there's some well-documented psychology that talks about things like something called groupthink. And then also like we have a predilection for conformity. And so like if you have 100 people in a room, they've run experiments like this. Like for example, they've run experiments. I'll give you an example of like a really standard one.
Okay.
So they'll put 100 people in a room, and the experiment is to focus on 5 of them, and the other 95 are actors in the experiment.
Okay.
But nobody knows
Nobody
who's
knows.
that. And so the actors will go in and they'll be like, what color is that brick? You know, and then like one of the participants that's not an actor might be like, oh, it's like red and, you know, burgundy, and then an actor will be like, no, it's gray. You know, and it's like clearly not gray, right? And then like a bunch of the other actors would be like, yeah, it's gray. Yeah, I think, yeah, it looks gray. It looks gray. And literally, I mean, this sounds crazy, but like there's well-documented stuff, like experiments of this. Eventually, what happens is the actors all insist that it's gray. They agree. And the 5 experiment people, they will agree.
They say it's gray,
They
even
will
though
be
they
like,
see red.
they'll be like, yeah, I guess it is kind of gray. And they'll change their mind. But and this, I'm telling you guys, if you don't believe me, look this up. Like,
No, I do believe
this
you.
is so well documented. Like, it's a human nature thing, and there are obviously anomalies. There's exceptions.
You doubt yourself because everybody is saying
there's exceptions. Exactly. You start second guessing
You second
the
guess yourself.
truth, which is like clearly the truth.
The truth, yeah.
And that's what's happening in our country for real. Like, it's like the media creates this perception, whether it's social media, big corporations, like it attacks almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you go to the mall, you see it. You go to Target, you see it. You open social media, you see it. You go on Google, you see it. So it attacks you everywhere, and it just sort of like envelopes you in this idea that this is normal.
Yeah.
And you start thinking, am I crazy?
Am I the crazy one?
Because I don't know if this is, because that brick looks fucking red to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then people just go along with it. And I think that's what's happening with the drag show thing. I think that's what's happening with the migrant crisis. Like, it's clearly not a good idea.
You know what's funny about everything you're saying is that as I see it more, and as like even friends or people around me, I am like steering even more away from it. Like,
yeah, there's exceptions to the.
There's exceptions to it, right?
And
of course.
you're the one that says everybody's going left, I'm going right.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense to me. And I feel like in my life, something to me has to be rational in order for me to understand it. And I have to like break it down and like make sure that this makes sense for me. And then, is that the truth? And like, where are the facts? What is, you know?
I think for a lot of people like you, because you actually said this. You said earlier in the show, you said, I never really worried about politics until Trump got elected. And I think that...
Because I saw the difference.
No, listen, I know. So I think that for a lot of people, the moment that they realize, like it's not even that they realize, because I think a lot of people realize it. Like, for example, during COVID, I don't care. Like, there's people that believe wholeheartedly in the efficacy of masks, in the threat of COVID.
Yeah, of course.
But they knew that it didn't make any sense to walk into a restaurant with your mask on, and then when you sit down at your table, you could take your mask off. They knew it.
I know.
They knew it.
I know, but I was one of those people.
But they wouldn't acknowledge it. But I think that for most people, what I'm trying to say is, as soon as they acknowledge that this really doesn't make sense, you can't unsee it.
No.
You can't go back.
No.
And that's what happened to you. It sounds like when Donald Trump got into office, you started to say, you know what? A lot of this stuff isn't really adding up.
A lot of this stuff, I was a Democrat.
Really? Yeah.
All my life.
Yeah.
My parents were.
Oh, didn't you vote for Hillary Clinton?
Fuck no.
Oh,
Can I say that
okay.
louder? Can I cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, you can cuss on
good.
the podcast.
I did not.
But you were a Democrat.
I was a Democrat.
Yeah.
I actually,
I
wasn't a citizen.
So when you switched was when Hillary ran against Trump. Ah.
And then I started to see the difference between the two, right? And
Got it.
And then I really started looking into it.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to like some things that you were saying about like the drag queens and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I wanted to ask you a question about that.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do you think that, and this is like just like maybe like a theory or like a thought, I don't know, but do you think that a lot of these people just want to be, like they want to feel wanted or loved? Like, do you think that they just do these things or call out more attention or are louder because they're lacking that like love that they want? You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? Like they want to be...
It does make sense.
Liked.
So I will...
or wanted or want to be liked, you know?
I get what you're asking me. And I think that at our core, everybody's after the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, for real. And this is great. I'm actually glad you asked me this, because some people really think I hate those people. I don't hate anybody. I genuinely, I've literally devoted my entire life since about like 7, 8, whenever, like 2017. So however long it's been since then, I've made a conscious decision to devote my entire life to contributing to other people's lives in a positive way. I work so hard, and it's not for money, it's not for recognition, it's because I genuinely want to contribute. And I think everybody's after the same thing. I think they're after peace, for lack of a better word, right? I think peace is the best word for it. It's happiness, it's contentedness, it's security, it's all those things, but it's just peace. They want to wake up every day and be proud of who they are and be grateful for the people and the things that they have in their life. Yeah. You know, that's what everybody wants. And when I say 2017, when I had this experience where I went to prison and I lost everything. I lost everything that I worked my whole life accumulating. I lost all my money, all my property. I lost all my friends. I lost the support of my family. I lost all the opportunities that I had worked my whole life to create. And I think that most people in America, they spend their whole life working towards those things. They want to accumulate money, things, approval of their family and friends. They want to, and then opportunities for growth, right? And the crazy thing that happened to me is when I lost all those things, that was the first time in my life that I found peace. And so I feel like I figured something out. I figured something out. And I that's when I said, okay, I want to do everything I can to share this with people. And so when I share my opinions about that community or anybody, it's just my opinion that they're after peace. They're searching for peace. And I think it's my opinion that they're actually delaying their arrival at peace by taking the route that they're taking. What they think, because the media and because America and because culture and because other people have told them that they should just lean into this, it's a delusion. Yeah. You think that, you say to me right now, you know, I think I'm a boy. I think I was meant to be a boy. First of all, I have a hard time sometimes putting my religion to the side, but my first thought is, no, God didn't accidentally make you a boy. Okay, I'm sorry. He doesn't make mistakes like that. Right. But let's put religion to the side and just speak, you know, basically science-based. I think that you may have a chemical imbalance or a hormonal imbalance of some sort that's maybe making you feel this way, or maybe you have the beginnings of a mental illness or just some sort of, you know, there's something off. Yeah. And I think that rather than validating that and be like, you know what, Ceci, yeah, you are a boy. I'm pushing you further into this delusion. I'm pushing you further into your conviction about a reality that's not real. Yeah. You're now living in a reality that does not exist, and nobody else can participate in it with you because it's not real. And I think by doing that, because that's what we're doing as a society, I think that by doing that, we're actually pushing you further away from peace, and that the only chance you have at actually ever finding peace is coming to terms with the reality, which is like, I know you feel that way and it's cool. And maybe there's an argument that can be made that we have created these parameters around what it means to be a man and a woman. And it's okay for me. I'm saying this for real. It's okay if you don't want to live within the parameters that society says a woman has to. That's cool. If you want to wear baggy clothes and backwards hat and all that, but you're a woman. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's cool. Yeah. You can make that look however you want it to look. But I'll even call you, you know, Clyde instead of Cece if you want. But we have to come to terms with the opportunity that you've been given. You know what I mean? God gave you a chance at life and you're fighting against it. This is one of the things that drives me so crazy about people is like, you didn't ask to be here. Nobody waited in line. Nobody filled out an application to be born. Nobody waited in line to be born. God gifted you an opportunity at life. And then people have the audacity to show up and complain about the circumstances. This is a gift.
I couldn't agree with you more.
You didn't earn this. You know what I mean? Yeah. So stop complaining. Come to terms with, I think that's the only chance that these people have at finding peace, is saying, man, I wish I was born a boy, but you know what? I wasn't. And so I'm just going to do my best as a woman. Yeah, and I just have a different opinion on how they can find peace, because everybody will bring up the statistics. I had a conversation with a local business owner yesterday.
Yeah.
The owner of, I don't know if he's public about it, but the owner of a big business here that we've collaborated with and stuff. His child was born Jane and now is James.
Sure.
And he, you know, they always love to bring up the statistics about suicide. They say, well, if we don't let them get the transition, the suicide rates among transgender children that are refused medical treatment are skyrocketing. Nobody likes to add in that the suicide rate among transgender children that have gone through the medical treatment is just as high.
But they don't say that.
It's just as high.
But they don't talk about that.
And after we let them, we validate them and we say, you're right, you are a boy. And then you make this permanent decision. Then you go and try to kill yourself. And I know that what him and I were having a hard conversation, but I couldn't just sit there and let you try to mislead me. So I asked him, because he told me his child attempted suicide 3 times. And I said, be honest with me, were those suicide attempts before or after you guys did the medical treatment? And he I could tell in that moment that he knew that I had a point. Yeah. Because the suicide attempt was after we did this. So leaning in and telling these people, yeah, you know what, you are, and letting them live in this delusional reality is not the answer, because even after we validate them, they still try to kill themselves. Yeah. So why don't we try something else? Why don't we try helping them come to terms with the reality, which is that you aren't anything other than the way that you were born. Right. And you know what, you're perfect just like that. You're perfect like that. Yeah. And I feel strongly about that. And again, I'm so glad you asked, because people think I hate those people. That's not the case. But I see I see what's really happening is we validate them, and then they still hate themselves because of it, because they're living in a reality, a world that nobody else can join them in. Nobody else can live with you. Nobody else can relate or anything like that. But if we would just, in the beginning, when I was a kid, I really loved Spider-Man, right? Yeah. But if I was convinced that I was Spider-Man, my mom didn't take me to the hospital and get, suction cups sewn onto my fingertips. She didn't say, yeah, you know where you are. Because something bad could have happened to me. I could have went up on a building and thought I was about to swing off of it and kill myself. Right? And so what happened is, my mom just reminded me, you know what, that's cool, and let me pretend for a little while. But eventually I had to sober up and come to terms with reality, which is that I wasn't Spider-Man. I was just a regular kid. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yep. And so, I don't know. That's really where I'm at with that. I think that those people, to answer your question, they are looking for happiness. But society is telling them to look for it down this path. But I don't think it's down that path. I think they're actually going away from happiness down that path. Yeah. I think they need to go down this path, which is, admittedly, it's harder. It's the harder path.
But nobody wants to take the harder path.
It's the harder path. Yeah. But look around. I would even say most people that are not transgender, that are just regular everyday people, most of them never find peace. They never find it. It's hard to find it because life is hard. But and it requires a lot of work to get there. But man, I think we're really doing more harm than good by letting those people embrace that. And then also, now we've gotten to the point where we're letting those people come around our children and plant the seed in their head that, hey, it's okay to be either a boy or you get to choose.
But so young. We're letting kids do that so young.
I think that's child abuse.
So we're letting them do it really young kids don't fucking know what they want. I didn't even know what I wanted at 18 years old, let alone 8, 9, 10. Yeah. One thing that I would say that bothers me to the core is the whole men in sports, or women, transgender in sports. Oh, and I know I might get a lot of shit for this, but I don't honestly care.
I don't think you will.
Because I think it's just so effed up to allow that to happen. We're just not made out of the same anything. We're just not. It doesn't matter how much you try to change anything. We're just not the same, right? Yeah. So, it also like, I don't understand this part too. It's like a lot of feminists, right, are all about it, but you're about women.
Yeah,
right?
you're supposed to be lifting women
but you're letting
up.
men into our world.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't understand that either. It doesn't make sense to me.
It is really
There's
ironic.
a lot that doesn't make sense to me in this whole thing. And listen, like, I stay away from it as much as I can. I do have my strong opinions because they're my opinions, just like everybody else has their opinions. But I have to say, I don't disagree with you on a lot of things that you're saying. And I think a lot of it is just going to a place where we're going to regret it one day in generations.
Well, it makes me worried that, like, it doesn't make me, I mean, I'm going to have kids. I'm going to raise them the best I can. I'm going to do my best regardless to set a good example and to
That's all you can do.
To teach them my, just a different perspective perhaps than most people. But I do want to touch on that because it is really ironic that the feminism movement is like defending transgender women.
I don't understand
in women's roles, because what's actually happening is that you have biological men erasing all of the progress that actual women have made for the sake of women.
Us.
Yeah, you're stealing,
Correct.
You're robbing that of women. Yeah.
So for me, it's
Did you
hard.
see that like Time Women of the Year was a transgender man?
Yes, I did.
A transgender man.
It was a man.
Woman of the Year.
It was a man, and women are just put to the side more and more every day. Biological women.
Yeah, marginalized.
Yeah, and so for me, it like really infuriates me because I don't think it's okay, and I don't think that there's anyone that's really standing up to fight that.
Yeah,
and so I can't. I get just so mad about it. I don't even know what to say right now because I'm like,
no, I really,
I
think that a lot of women, biological women, are gonna, at least understand where you're coming from on that point and probably agree with you, at least that listen to this show for sure.
I'm open, honestly. Like, if you want to be whoever you want to be, like you said, if you want to be called this, if you, whatever, like, I'm open to all, but at the end of the day, the reality is that you're this, and this is what you are biologically. Right. And so you cannot make me think otherwise because that is who you are.
Well, that's not only that, but I think at its core, what it's, especially people who are you're Catholic, right? No, I'm sorry. So especially people who are religious, right? Like me, it's like you're asking me to abandon truth, even if you're not religious, even if you're just like a regular person. Yeah, you're asking somebody to abandon the truth.
Yeah,
to lie to themselves, to say, nah, I'm sitting in front of a man right now, like. That's me. You know how much confidence I would lose in myself, how much conviction I lose in myself if I start getting myself to believe a lie? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It doesn't make it's so crazy. But anyway,
hard.
So
it's a hard topic to
it's
really like.
I don't think it's that hard. I really don't. I think that why people say this is a hard topic is because there's so many people out there that are brainwashed that will come but if you ever actually sit down with one of them like this and you try to talk through it, they can't. They always resort to like yelling at you and calling you names because their argument, it doesn't hold water
at all.
It doesn't hold any water.
It really doesn't. Right.
So like if you try to sit down with one, they can't do that. They're loud on the internet because they can make a comment and they don't have to like acknowledge your actual questions.
Right.
But if you sit down with one of them, they can't explain to you how any of it makes sense because it doesn't make sense. So I don't think it's a really hard conversation at all. I think that what's hard is standing up for it. Like, and I think it's more necessary now than ever. The person I talked to yesterday, the business owner, he told me that he's like, I know a lot of really successful people, and they'll tell me, they've always said, bringing politics and talking politics in business is suicide. And he was like, it was very like a subtle like warning, like what you're doing is very dangerous, like talking about this and letting people associate it with your business. And we've gotten canceled several times, and and I've had to really ask myself, like, is this that important? Like my business, I was talking to a customer this morning, Ava, and I was like, we would easily be the busiest coffee shop in St. Louis if I didn't talk about this stuff. I'm talking easily. I would have all 3 levels open already. There's a whole group of people here in St. Louis that won't come to the shop, despite the fact that it's one of the most popular shops in town. Like, I could list so many things that people behind the scenes don't realize, but like St. Louis has a really strong local influencer scene.
Yeah.
Like local influencers, like foodie influencers and stuff like that. I know every single one of them. Grace knows every single one of them.
Yeah.
Not one has ever posted about us.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I'm going to interrupt you really quickly. I have started my journey in the influencing route, life, whatever. And I don't want to be associated with a lot of the influencers in St. Louis any of it. Like, I purposely don't say that I'm from St. Louis in my social media. And I don't care to say this because I don't want to be around those same people that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit to be around them
they're
because
so fake.
My values and my beliefs are complete opposite. And I just don't want to, I don't need to cater to you about anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm kind of on a mission to like create a different cohort, and I will eventually, but not one of all of these, and I know them all, that not one of them has ever posted about us, and they post about every single new coffee shop that opens up.
Mark, I think, is really because they're scared.
Well, yeah, of course they're scared. They don't have a backbone.
And they don't have a backbone,
and then the local publications, like, people won't even like there was a Sauce Magazine's, one of the biggest magazines in town. They wrote an article about where to get coffee in St. Louis. It had like literally 20 coffee shops on there. You cannot make a list of coffee shops in St. Louis that's 20 shops long and not have us on. You cannot do it.
Yeah.
We do more business on a daily basis than 90% of coffee shops in St. Louis. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. Like, and I know it was intentional. And so I think I say all this to say, I know how much it's costing me to talk about this stuff, but we have to. I refuse to like just sit around and be one of the brainwashed people. I cannot do it. I can't, like, my moral compass does not let me sit here and convince myself of a lie.
Why do you think that is so important to you to get that word out there? Like, why is this so?
It's not just about this topic. It's just in general. I think we need stronger men in this country.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I think we need to preserve like not only the family unit, but I think we need to preserve communities. I think that's more important. I think the nuclear family is like, it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. We evolved to live in villages. We evolved to live amongst each other, to be interdependent on each other. Like, and so I think it's highly necessary and important that we get back to living in a community with one another. And I do think that, you know, unfortunately, as much as people hate this, like, there are different roles to play in a community. When you put a team together, right? Like, you have some teammates that do some stuff well, men and women are just different. Like you were saying about sports teams. I believe in gender roles. I believe that women should be raising children and men should be, you know, providing for their family. I'm sorry. I just do.
There's nothing to be sorry about. I believe the same thing.
And the reason why it's so important to me goes back to, I care so deeply about humanity and about society. People are more unhappy now than they've ever been in my whole life. People are lonelier, more depressed, higher rates of anxiety than they've ever been in my entire life. Suicide rates are higher than they've been in my entire life. I read a book recently called Find Your People, where she talks about, she went over to Africa on a mission trip, and she goes to these third world countries and these villages, and these people have nothing and they're happy. And here in America, we have everything and we're miserable.
So miserable, and we're yelling and screaming at each other, fighting with each other.
So what we're doing is not working.
Segregated.
And it's this progressive culture that is happening to America. And it's like, look at the places in America that are the most progressive. Look at San Francisco, look at LA, look at New York City, look at Boston, look at Portland, Oregon. These places are zombie wastelands. There's the homeless is out of control, the stealing, the crime is out of control. That is what this cultural shift produces. Do we want that for the whole country, or do we stand up for it? And so, because I care so much about people, and my people specifically, I'm like, you know, I've kind of like resigned myself that I can't save the country, but I can save my own little village right here. I can create a pocket of St. Louis where we depend on each other and where we live amongst each other, and where and I can at least preserve that for my children to grow up in. Like, that's why it's important to me. Like, that's, you know,
but you're doing it.
Yeah.
You're very resilient.
I'm like, cool.
And honestly, anything that comes your way, I've seen that you just like, you roll through their punches and you only get better.
Yeah.
You only like succeed.
I don't
in
know.
That's what I've seen.
It does seem like sometimes I feel that way. Like I really do feel
I mean,
like
you're going to have your downs,
the more,
right?
yeah, some days
That's
I have
what
moments,
it is.
but the more that people attack me, the stronger I get, I feel.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's something that you're getting out there that's true and it's bothering people.
Well, I mean,
think that's true.
I mean, you see what's happening here. Does it seem like people are buying into it?
No. And buying into you?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure buying into you, but not into
into that bullshit.
Not into the bullshit that's out there.
I feel like this is like a haven. It's becoming a haven for people that are like,
yeah, kind of actually.
For real.
I was at Bible study the other day.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And I'm not even religious. I know. And the women's group with Lau, I mean, she's just like killing it. Obviously, you guys are such an amazing team. Yeah. Really, everybody here. But I'm curious,
what really drives you? Like, this is my mission and my passion. And part of the reason I have you on here is because you're a part of our community. And, and I just, I really wanted to hear your story. But like, as I'm sitting here talking about this, is there anything in life that fires you up the same way that this stuff fires me up?
I think a lot of things fire me up.
Yeah.
I think just living in general, I just every day try to strive for the best. Mm-hmm. I never had the best. So for me, it's like there is no failure because I felt like in my childhood, everything was a failure looking back, right? Like it's just like a mental thing I have. So I just work hard and I want nice things and I want to give them to myself because I want to be the one to say that I did that was rewarding for me.
Yeah.
But that's just what it is.
Have you always been like that? Like really like really self-sufficient, like really ambitious, like hardworking, independent?
Yes, because I had to be. I didn't really have an option, right? Like coming here, my parents didn't speak English. So I had to take on the father, mother role with them because they had no idea what was going on.
That is
right?
crazy, yeah.
So I'm taking them to hospitals, I'm translating, I'm doing everything for them. I started working at 15. I gave them money for their bills. Like my car got repossessed because I had to give them money for the rent. And so it's just like because I believed that I owed them for bringing me here to this country and giving me this opportunity. Right.
Well, you do.
So yeah. But at the same time, I didn't ask to be born, right? Like I didn't ask for those things.
You guys decided to have a baby.
You guys decided to have me. So like,
yeah.
You were supposed to be the parent in that, right? But I am very thankful and I work every day very hard and I'm always trying to find something new to do. I don't want to have a boss because I know what that's like. I've been in corporate all my life and you hit like a threshold or like a wall and then there's nothing else. And for me, like the sky's the limit, right?
Yeah.
So I have to keep going. And so my mom growing up always told me, you're not good enough. That isn't good enough. There's something like that you need to keep going. She was a professor all her life. Like she was, she taught in high school. So and nothing was ever good enough for her. And so nothing was ever good enough for me, right? Growing up. So today I still have that mentality.
Really?
Which is bad because I'm always like anxious about like, I need to keep going. Like I can't be poor again, like I need to make more money. And I have to say like money is one of my biggest motivations. But at the same time, I have to be doing something that I'm passionate about. I can't just.
Yeah, you got to be having fun with it.
Yeah. I can't just make the money and then like be miserable. That's why I left corporate.
Yeah, but having money is fun, at least to you. I know you. You got the fashion. You got the
I love
bags.
it. Yeah, I do. I love nice things for sure. I'm not ashamed of it. I do love it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You work hard for it, get what you want.
Yeah.
But people also really drive me.
Yeah.
The customers that I work with are really important to me.
Yeah.
I love humans. I'm curious about people. Like I want to ask questions. I want to know about them. I want to know who you are, like how we can align. What can we do together?
Yeah.
That to me is better than anything. Like you were saying, building a community.
Yeah.
And I've seen how much you've done to Patrick in the last few months, let alone everyone else. And I think that is just so admirable.
Oh, I love that guy.
That guy is everything.
That guy how did you guys meet?
That guy's everything. We met 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Through his cousin, Mary. She met me the first day at this like shop that I used to work at as a store manager. And she was like, you got to meet my cousin. Like you guys will get married. And I'm like,
oh, no way.
What do you mean,
Before
girl?
you guys even met?
What do you mean? And I was not into it at all. Like I did not want to meet anybody, nothing.
Yeah.
And then he came from Colorado one day and she was like, oh, Ceci's here. You should come by. Like his whole family had already come to the store and like already wanted us to like meet each other.
Yeah.
And so he came and I had braces on with a bun and no makeup on.
Oh,
I looked the worst that I've ever looked in my life.
I don't think I've ever seen you like that.
And
Cece.
this guy, it was bad. It was pretty bad. This guy comes in and I thought he was like the cutest thing. I was like, oh my God, he's so sexy.
Yeah.
Like I really liked him, you know?
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, he asked me out. I said no. I asked him out. He said no. And then
No way.
I said no because I was just dealing with something else.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to continue anything else with, I don't know. I'm a relationship girl, right? So like I can't date multiple guys at the same time. Like it's just,
100%.
I don't know. It's just not me.
Yeah.
So, I said no, and then I regretted it. So I asked him and he said no. And then we saw each other again at like Sub-Zero, which is like a bar that used to be in the Central West End. And then that night we went, he asked me to come over. I went over, he put on Grease because he knew that I loved to dance.
Yeah.
And then he like made this move, kissed me. And then like we hung out every day since then. 10 years later, here we are.
I love him. So when you say that what it has done for Patrick, what do you mean? Like what?
I think it's just made him into a better man.
Really?
To be honest with you. I don't know what you guys do at that man's group, but I don't know what you guys are in there doing because he does not share with me at all. Yeah. But one of our issues that we've had in our relationship is masculine energy and feminine energy, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the times, I'll be very honest, I felt as a woman that I was giving more of that masculine energy throughout our relationship, sometimes more so than other times, right? Mm-hmm. And so him and I check in like every year or two, right? Mm-hmm. Like we check in as a couple and I say to him, these are the things that I need in a relationship. And then he tells me these are things that I need. And one of the things that I needed, and he told me this, he's like, I feel that you are always in your masculine energy. Like you go to work, you come home and you're still in this energy. And I don't feel
I need you to
like
unwind.
I can't be that for you. Mm-hmm. And I kept telling him, I need you to be the masculine energy. Like I can't be this, you know?
Yeah.
So he changed on his own throughout, like, you know, you grow as a person as you get older, but in meeting you and in being around the men that are around here, I think that he has just seen a wider view of what that means, being like a man that provides and a man that protects, essentially. And it's natural, I feel, for any woman to want that in their partner.
Oh, you want to feel secure, 100%.
I want to feel secure.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm independent. Yes, I work. Yes, I make my own money. Yes, I buy my own things. But if I'm with a partner, I want him to fulfill that part of it. And that was a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, it's really just
like,
an energetic thing.
It's just an energetic thing.
Yeah.
So I let him know that.
Yeah.
And he's done everything that he could to show me and give me all the ways that I want to be loved in our relationship.
Yeah.
And we just work at it.
Man.
Every single year. We work at for lack of better words, we work with each other every single year to figure out what it is that Ceci needs, what it is that Patrick needs, so that I can improve that and we can have a better relationship. But man, that was hard.
Yeah.
Like, that's not easy.
No, 10 years is really,
it's a long ass time.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
It really is. And both of you are incredible humans, but like the reality is like 10 years don't just happen by accident.
No.
Like it doesn't happen by accident. No. You have to work hard at it. And what I can say is it's not just me either. I know for a fact, because I talk to other guys in the men's group, but like, we're so grateful for Patrick's presence around. Like he's just, dude, for real. Like he's just a presence.
He's gold.
He's a guy that everybody respects. He's a guy that everybody will look up to. Like he brings his own values to the group. So like, I'm really grateful to hear that he's taken, you know,
he's very grateful for you.
Good things from the group. But because he adds a lot to it. And it's amazing, man. We've seen him. He's like a stupid thing, but it's something that comes to mind. We call him the locomotive at the run group. At the run group, because he's just
he's so competitive. Like he's so competitive. He's like, I gotta win. I gotta win. Today he came home. He called. He's like, babe, guess what? I won today. Like I haven't won yet. I won today. I was like, oh my God, good job.
And he came up.
That's like everything to him.
Yo,
you know, he loves it.
He came up to me after. He said, yeah, you saw I beat Alex back, right?
Like he wants you to notice. Yeah. Like you need to know. You need to tell him, you know, like he loves that.
For real.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Dang. Well, Ceci, dude, I'm so grateful that you took time to come on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And I'm
for
grateful that
me.
you're a part of our community. Seriously, like you're like the nicest person ever. Sometimes I feel bad because I'm not that nice.
You're
and you
so
come
fucking
in and
mean.
you're like, hey, Mark. And I'm
No.
just like, you know, hey, dang.
It's so funny you say that because I feel like every time I come in, like you're like, hey girl, like they're like, look at the fashion CC. Like I never get that from you.
I try to hype you up. Yeah.
But you're gonna have your bad days, and
Yeah.
I get it. And if you don't feel like saying hi, then I'll just be like, whatever, dude, don't say hi. I won't say hi back. No, I'm kidding. No, you're fine. You're
no,
good.
I love you, and I'm so grateful that you and Patrick are part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I know you're trying to work on your influencer thing.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram? I know people are going to want to follow you after this because.
Oh my God, I've never had to say this before.
Hey,
what?
First podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Ceci Guti with 2 T's.
Wait. You're gonna have to spell that.
Okay, so CECIGU.
Yeah.
TTI.
GUTTI.
Yeah, which is my name is Cecilia Gutierrez, but we just shortened it a little bit.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it. Go check me out.
Yeah, go check it out. All right. Thank you guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.